everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome back to the spring campaign for Arkham Horror, the card game. Last week we started with the Waking Investigators with their first scenario, so now we're back to the Dreamers for their second scenario, the Search for Kadath. Jenny and Luke picked up 6 experience last week, and they've mostly spent that experience, with the exception of Jenny floating 1. I didn't send the cat to either side, unlike last time we ran this campaign, so we don't have any help from the cat this time. First up, let's set the scene.
Scenario 2A, The Search for Kadath. Intro 1. You stay the night at Einar's place. Your rest is anything but peaceful. Even if one could sleep within a dream, you certainly do not. Your mind teems with anxiety over the quest looming ahead. You reflect on the Black Cat's warning about danger in the waking world, and you wonder about the others who have followed Virgil Grey down the steps of slumber and through the enchanted woods. Are they here now too? Perhaps if you find this castle and return with proof of the Dreamlands, you can save everyone. Yourself, your friends, and the other dreamers as well. Check the campaign log. If the Black Cat is at your side, proceed to Intro 2. If the above is not true, and Luke Robinson is in this group, skip to Intro 3. If neither of the above is true, skip to Intro 4.
We have no Black Cat among our group, but we do have a Luke Robinson in the group, so that'll bring us to Intro 3.
Intro 3. In the morning, you find Virgil and Randolph talking in the town square outside of Einar's place. You still aren't quite sure what to think of either of them, but you have a good sense of where you should go next. After all, this is not your first excursion into the fabled land of dreams. Addressing Randolph, you suggest talking to the High Priest Atal in the nearby Temple of the Elder Ones. It is a name you heard the last time you visited the city of Ulthar in your sleep, though until now you had no reason to seek the priest's advice. Randolph gives you a startled glance that transforms quickly into a smirk. How curious, he says. I was about to suggest the name. Atal is wise beyond all our measure. He may know where to find the place we seek. Virgil, eager to embark on this adventure, claps his hands. Well, what are we waiting for? This way, my friends. You nod and head for the temple, a circular tower of ivoried stone crowning the highest hill in town. A small army of cats patrols its walls. The cat at the head of the formation is none other than the old cat with the scar you encountered in the woods earlier. He steps forward to bar your entry and regards your party with great acrimony. Hello again, the cat says with a sharp tone. I suppose you want me to step aside. Check campaign log. If the investigators parlayed with the Zoogs, or if the investigators were saved by Randolph Carter, skip to Intro 5. If the cats collected their tribute from the Zoogs, skip to Intro 6.
Double checking the campaign log, the cats did collect their tribute from the Zoogs, so that brings us to Intro 6.
Intro 6. You tell the cat that you are merely here to speak with Atal, and that you mean no harm. Ah, no worries, human, the cat says with a gaping yawn. The kind only a cat can perform and still look regal in the act. You don't seem the type to make trouble. Besides, I ain't going nowhere. You see a small lump in front of the cat, a bloodied, half-eaten pheasant. You resist the urge to turn up your nose and count yourself lucky you are on this cat's good side. Go on in, he says, then licks his chops as he prepares to finish his meal. Skip to Intro 9. Intro 9. At the top of the temple, seated on an ivory dais, the High Priest Atal awaits you. He is a frail, wiry man with a long, wispy black beard, caved-in cheeks, and the pale, milky eyes of one affected by blindness. Do not let your eyes deceive you, Randolph whispers as you seat yourselves in front of the dais. Atal is over 3 centuries old, but his memory is sharp as a tack. You ask the priest about your quest and about your destination, the castle Randolph described from his dreams. You speak of the resting place of the Great Ones, high above unknown Kadath. Even I know not its true location, and that is all well and good, for the fruits of attempting to ascend to such a place would be bitter indeed. My companion Barzai once scaled a peak only a fraction as sacred, and he was never seen nor heard from again. The gods of Kadath may seem powerless, but they are protected by the other gods from the outside, whom it is better not to discuss. It would be wiser to let all the gods alone and leave this folly behind. Atal of use of the word gods has you curious. You wonder aloud what kind of god might exist in a place like this. The priest shakes his head. They are not our gods, but the gods of Earth, for this land is but a reflection of yours. You attempt to pry deeper into Atal's wisdom with your questioning, but his advice does not budge. I have already said more than I should, he insists. Please, for your sake, pursue this matter no further. In your campaign log, next to evidence of Kadath, record 1 tally mark. Check campaign log. If the investigators parlayed with the Zoogs, proceed to intro 10. If the cats collected their tribute from the Zoogs, or if the investigators were saved by Randolph Carter, skip to intro 11.
Once again, the cats collected their tribute from the Zoogs, so let's move to intro 11.
Intro 11. Atal refuses to give you any more advice, so you decide to leave the temple on the hilltop behind. We have learned much, but we are still no closer to knowing the location of Kadath, Randolph says with a sigh. It is likely that our destination is far from here, perhaps on another continent altogether. We shall need to secure passage by sea if we are to travel such great distances. I suggest we begin by traveling south, to the port city of Dilathleen. We can figure out our next step from there. Proceed to set up.
Alright, scene has been sufficiently set. Next, let's remind everyone what our tarot reading is. On the good side, we left the Hierophant 5. During the first will test each investigator performs each round, they get +1 will. On the bad side, we flipped Strength 8. During the first round of the game, each investigator cannot play assets. So hopefully that won't come back to haunt us too much. As we look at our opening hands, though, we may not be as happy with that as I thought we would, but we can probably work around it. So Jenny will be our lead investigator once again, and she does have a pair of assets in her hand. First up is Hard Knocks, which is a 2-cost to play, combat and agility on commit. It's a resource dump for those tests, respectively. Then we've got Leo De Luca, 5-cost to play, lore on commit. You may take an additional action during your turn. Then we've got 21 or Bust. 2-cost to play, combat, agility on commit. One at a time, reveal random tokens from the Chaos Bag until you choose to stop. Treat each bad symbol except for the tentacle as a 5, the tentacle as a 10, and the Elder Sign is either a 1 or an 11. If the combined total of these tokens, ignoring plus minus, is 18 or less, gain 4 resources. 19, 5, 20, gain 6, 21, gain 9. Next up, we've got Money Talks. 0 cost to play, fast. Play when you initiate a skill test. Instead of the skill type indicated for this test, this is a resource skill test. Your base value for this test is equal to half the number of resources in your resource pool rounded down. And Intel Report. 2 cost to play, 2 lore on commit. Discover 1 clue at your location. When you play Intel Report, you can potentially increase its cost by 2 to discover 2 clues, and increase it by 2 again to change at your location to at a location up to 2 connections away. Luke also has a few assets at his disposal. Actually, he's got more assets at his disposal, but we won't be able to play any of them. First up, we've got Shriveling, a Mystic Standard. 3 cost to play, combat on commit. Uses 4 charges. As an action, spend a charge to fight using will instead of combat and deal +1 damage. But if you pull a bad symbol during the attack, take 1 horror. Then we've got Rite of Seeking, 4 cost to play, lore on commit. Uses 3 charges. As an action, spend a charge to investigate using will instead of lore. If you succeed, discover 1 additional clue at your location. But if you pull a bad symbol, after this test resolves, immediately lose all remaining actions and end your turn. Then we've got Dr. Milan Christopher, who would be a brilliant turn 1 play, except for Strength 8 being on its bad side. 4 cost to play, lore on commit. You get +1 lore, and after you successfully investigate, gain 1 resource. We've also got a copy of Read the Signs Level 0, 2 cost to play, will, lore on commit. Investigate plus will to your skill value for the investigation. You may ignore any effect or keyword on your location which would trigger during the investigation. And if you succeed, discover 1 additional clue at the location. And we've got Storm of Spirits. 3 cost to play, lore, or will, combat on commit. Fight using will instead of combat. If you succeed, instead of its standard damage, Deal 2 damage to each enemy at your location, and any additional damage is dealt to the attacked enemy. If you pull a bad symbol during the attack, deal 1 damage to each investigator at your location. Okay, next let's look at our Act and Agenda decks. Act 1, Agenda 1A. Journey across the Dreamlands. Despite the advice of the Dreamlands inhabitants, you and your companions seek unknown Kadath, where the gods dwell. Action: if you're at a port location, resign. Venturing into the unknown has become too dangerous, so you return to safety with the information you've gathered. So it's good to know that we've got a Get Bent button. Then we'll take a look at our first act. Act 1A, Kingdom of the Sky. Over fertile plains rolling down to the sky, he saw the smoke of cottage chimneys, and on every hand were the hedges and plowed fields and thatched roofs of a peaceful land. H.P. Lovecraft, The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath. Objective: at the end of the round, investigators at a port location may spend the requisite number of clues as a group to advance, and we need 4, which is 2 per investigator. So last up, Luke and Jenny will move over to the map, so let's join them there. This scenario is a little bit different from usual in that we've only got revealed sides on locations. The other side has story text on them that we don't get to reveal right away. I can take that away because I'm using that as a marker for our starting location. Anyways, let's take a look at our first location. We've got Ulthar. Shroud of 1, 2 clues, veiled, sky and city, so not a port. Very pleasant were the suburbs of Ulthar, with their little green cottages and neatly fenced farms, and still pleasanter was the quaint town itself. H.P. Lovecraft, The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath. With each revealed location, I'm not going to go through it until we move. With each location, I'm not going to go through them until we actually get over there and they become relevant. So with that all set up, we'll get into our first investigation phase. And I think Jenny's turn is going to take us down to her play area. As part of setup during the scenario, setup gave the lead investigator, who once again is Jenny, control of Virgil Gray, writer of strange tales. As a reaction, after one or more signs of the gods are uncovered, either draw 1 card, gain a resource, or heal 1 horror from Virgil Gray. If there's more than 1 investigator in the game, and there is, give control of Virgil Gray to another investigator. Forced, if Virgil Gray is defeated, remove him from the game. 1 health, 3 sanity on soak. So since we can't play assets for our first round, I'm just going to do a little bit of setup with Jenny to get us ready. So we'll start off for action 1 by spending 2 resources, once I get that in the bag, or in the cup, to play 21 or bust to get us some resources. Once it decides to focus, there we go. You can pause that and give that another read if you like. Actually, let me bring that up here so I can see what it's doing. So now we need the bag right away. A 0. That's not a good start. Another 0. Give me a break. That's the Elder Sign, so that's a 1 or an 11. Right now it's an 11. Skull is making that a 16. How about another bad symbol? Ask and ye shall receive. So the elder sign and the two bad symbols mean we pulled 21 exactly. So that's going to give Jenny 9 more resources, which will bring her up to 12. Couldn't have asked for that to go much better. Actually, what I'm going to do is for action 2, I'm going to spend 4 of those resources. Actually, I would need to spend 6 of those resources for what I want to do here. Although this could be a waste, but I think it's fine. So we're going to play Intel Report for 6, which means I get to bump the discover 1 clue to discover 2 clues, and at your location to at a location up to 2 connections away, which means we actually get the 2 clues off of Dilathleen. We'll come back to that in a second. And then for action 3, Jenny's going to draw a card. So Jenny will draw Stunning Blow. If this so combat on commit. If the skill test is successful during an attack, automatically evade the attacked enemy. That will do it for Jenny. Similarly, Luke's turn will take us down to his play area. Action 1, Luke is going to investigate. He is at 3 to 1. He's up 2. That's a -1. He'll get a clue. Action 2, he'll do it again. Skull is -X, where X is the number of the signs of the gods the investigators have uncovered. Right now we haven't uncovered any signs of the gods, so that means we get the last clue off the location, and we get to flip Ulthar because of the veiled keyword. Veiled keyword, I'm just looking at the pack here. As a free action ability, an investigator at a veiled location with no clues on it may flip that location over, resolving the text on the other side. So that's what we get to do here. Alright, as you walk the streets of the town, a horde of cats slowly congregates around you, following you everywhere you go. Check the campaign log. If the cats collected their tribute from the Zoogs, read the following. One by one, the cats demand a tribute in the form of physical affection. Despite the urgency of your task, they rub against your legs, leap onto your lap, and do not leave until they are thoroughly adored. Lose all of your remaining actions and end your turn. Or until they're thoroughly adored or annoyed if you're yours truly. Anyway, since we didn't really have much to do because we couldn't play assets anyway, that will do it for Luke's turn and the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the only enemy we have is the pack of Vunits that setup spawned for us. So, we'll flip everything over, start resetting everything, and then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jenny gains 2 resources and goes to 8. Luke gains 1 and goes to 6. Jenny will draw. Quick thinking. Wild card on commit. If the skill test is successful by 2 or more, after it resolves, you may immediately take an action as if it were your turn. This action does not count toward the number of actions you can take each round, or each turn. Luke will draw. Eureka. Will, lore, agility on commit. If the skill test is successful, the investigator performing this test searches the top 3 cards of his or her deck for a card, draws it, and shuffles his or her deck. Mythos phase, we put our first Doom on the agenda. Jenny will draw. Wondrous Lands. If there are ever no clues on your location, discard Wondrous Lands and it gains Surge. There are no clues, so that gains Surge, which means Jenny will now draw. Pack of Vunis, swarming 1. Okay, so this is the card we were looking at earlier. While the host Pack of Vunis has no attached swarm cards, it gets +2 fight and +2 evade. 1 and 1 on attack. That's delightful. And then Luke will draw Whispers of Hypnos. Oh boy. Peril. Revelation, choose a skill, either will, lore, combat, or agility. For the remainder of the round, each investigator gets -2 to the chosen skill. You can't choose a skill that has already been chosen by a copy of this effect this round. No god or daemon could have aspired to discoveries and conquests like those which we planned in Whispers. H.P. Lovecraft, Hypnos. Oh, that's a problem. Actually, it's not that big a problem. I think we're going to choose... What do we not need to test this round? We're going to need to test... will or agility this round. So I don't want to choose those. Jenny's probably going to need combat to get past the Pack of Vunis at the River Sky. So I think we're going to choose... lore, since that's the only skill we don't need to test this round. So we'll put Whispers of Hypnos there. That is actually one thing I wish would be made in the... It should be made by somebody on Etsy. Is tokens or something representing each skill for that treachery. So I'm going to make a note here. Round 2, Whispers of Hypnos. I just want to have a note of what skill I'm choosing to reduce by 2. Alright, that will do it for the Mythos phase. Investigation phase, and I hate using one of Luke's best cards, but I think I'm going to need to use it to help Jenny get past the spawn of Vunis. So, let's drop down to Luke's play area. As much as I would rather be able to play this later in the scenario, I think I've got to use it now. So, we're going to spend 3 resources to play Storm of Spirits, and we're going to target the Pack of Vunis on Jenny. Since we're using lore for the first time, Luke is at a 5 for this test. He's going to commit Eureka to go up to 6, which is going to put him up 5, and Jenny's going to give him quick thinking, mostly because she wants the extra action. So that's going to bring Luke up to 4, 5, 6, 7 to 1. Luke is up 6. Oh, actually, hang on a second. I forgot we draw a second card with Luke. So the question is, do we still have Eureka in his hand? Luke draws Fingerprint Kit, which, yeah, he will discard that, and he'll still have Eureka in his hand. It's another clue tool in his toolbox. Anyway, okay, so now that we got that straight, where were we? Oh, yes. Storm of Spirits, 5 because of the Hierophant, 6, 7 to 1, targeting the Pack of Vunis on Jenny. So Luke is up 6. And we get Tentacle Touched. Delightful. To make matters worse, both of our investigators take a damage from that. And Jenny actually, instead of its standard damage, so Jenny takes a damage from that, and I think she takes the 2 damage as well because of friendly fire. Ouch. That plan very much blew up in my face. Ah, delightful. Action 2. We're going to play Shriveling, which is a Mystic card that we've seen countless times on the channel. I'm only going to grab 3 charges of it, though, because Action 3, Luke's going to use... Actually, it's 3 charges, because Action 3... Luke's going to use one of them, trying to target one of the swarm cards on Jenny. Trying to target the Pack of Vunis on Jenny. So Luke is up Luke's up 3. Cultist is reveal another token. If this token is revealed during an investigation and this skill test fails, increase that location's shroud by 1 for the remainder of the round. We're not revealing it during an investigation. Rune is -2. If you fail, either take 1 damage and 1 horror or place 1 doom on the current agenda. Fortunately, we don't fail, but we have to resolve them in order. So we did reveal a cultist during the test, which means Luke has to take a horror from that. But now we get to deal 2 damage and defeat one of the swarm cards on the pack of Vuniths. Okay, so both of those go back in the bag. That will do it for Luke. Now let's move over to Jenny. Right now, those pack of Vuniths are a fight and an evade of 3 because they have no swarm cards attached to them. So Jenny's going to try to evade for action 1. And she's going to commit hard knocks to go up 1. Does Luke have anything else he wants to commit to this? He does not. So Jenny is up 1. A 0 means we evade the pack of Vuniths. Action 2, we're going to spend 5 resources to play out Leo De Luca, the Louisiana Lion. Say that 5 times fast. I was born in Mississippi. Louisiana just sounded better. So now Jenny's back to having 2 actions left. And action 3 will take us over to the map. Action 2, Jenny's going to move over to the river. Action 3, I should say, Jenny's going to move over to the river Sky. Make friends with another pack of Vuniths, and we'll take a look at the river Sky. Shroud of 2, no clues. Forced, when you attempt to leave the river Sky, if it has not yet been flipped over, test Will 2 or Agility 2. If you fail, flip this card over and resolve the text on its other side. Soon afterward, he came to the great stone bridge across the sky, into whose central pier the Masons had sealed a living human sacrifice. H.P. Lovecraft, The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath. Then for action 4, Jenny's going to try to attack the pack of Vuniths at even. Rune, as we saw, is -2. If you fail, either take 1 and 1 or place a doom on the current agenda. We'll put a doom on the current agenda, which will bring that up to 2. That will do it for Jenny. That'll do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, Jenny takes 1 and 1 from the pack of Vuniths. That one spawned during setup, and I wasn't sure how to handle swarming, so I just didn't give it any swarm cards since, again, nothing had set up yet. So we didn't even have lead investigator decks yet. Anyway, that will do it for the pack of Vuniths in Ulthar's Exhausted. I'm planning on not having Luke still be there when it comes time for the investigation phase, because it's a fast action to activate the gate box. Anyway, I'll go ahead and start flipping everything over. The pack of Vuniths will also wake up and engage Luke, and then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jenny gains 2 resources and goes to 5. Luke is going to gain 1 and go to 2. Jenny will draw. Mauser C96. 4 cost to play, agility on commit. Uses 5 ammo. As an action, exhaust Mauser C96 and spend an ammo to fight. You get +1 in combat and deal +1 damage for this attack. If you succeed by 2 or more, either ready the Mauser or gain a resource. I'll remember to actually do Luke's forced learning this time, so he'll draw 2 cards and select 1. Luke will draw. String of Curses. 1 cost to play, combat, agility on commit. Parlay. Choose a non-elite enemy at your location and either automatically evade that enemy and place a doom on it. It can't take damage for the rest of the round. Discover 1 clue at your location. Or if that enemy has 1 or more doom on it, defeat it. Gain a resource for each doom that was on it. His other choice is a Sword Cane. Playing it doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity. Reaction: after Sword Cane enters play, immediately trigger its action ability without paying its cost. As an action, exhaust Sword Cane to fight. You may use your will in place of either your combat or agility for this attack or evasion attempt. I think we're going to take the Sword Cane, or not, yeah, we're going to take the Sword Cane here. Right. Mythos phase, Doom on the agenda goes up to 3. Jenny draws. Dreamland's Eclipse. Revelation, put Dreamland's Eclipse into play next to the agenda deck. Forced, when you initiate an investigation, you must either take 1 horror, or your location gets +2 Shroud for this investigation. Forced, at the end of the round, discard Dreamland's Eclipse. Luke draws. Stealthy Zoog. 1/1/3. Spawn, engage with the investigator at your location with the lowest agility. He's the only one there. Prey, lowest agility. Alert, swarming 1. One sees their weird eyes long before one can discern their small, slippery brown outlines. H.P. Lovecraft, The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath. We'll draw a swarm card for that. And then here's where Whispers of Hypnos was gone. And then here's where Luke's gate box is going to come in so clutch in this scenario. So I'm going to exhaust the gate box and spend a charge on it. Spend a charge off of it to move Luke to his dream gate. So we'll take our first look at the... Here we are. Dreamgate Wondrous Journey. Shroud of 1, no clues. Bonded to Gatebox. Dreamgate is connected to each other revealed location and vice versa. Enemies and investigators other than Luke can't enter Dreamgate. Forced, at the end of the investigation phase, set Dreamgate aside out of play. If Luke is here, move him to any other revealed location. So we'll put Luke up at Dreamgate and put the Stealthy Zoog and the Pack of Vuniths in Ulthar. Moving into the investigation phase now, and let's see if Jenny can get away from this Pack of Vuniths as we move down to her play area. Jenny's first order of business is trying to get past this Pack of Vuniths. So, I think with that in mind, she's going to pay, for first action, she's going to attack the Pack of Vuniths, but she's going to commit Stunning Blow to go up 1, and I'm hoping for the auto-evade during the attack. Thud. Let's see what happens here. Jenny is up 1. Remember, the Pack of Vuniths has no attached swarm cards, so it's got +2 fight and +2 evade, so that's why Jenny's only up 1. Skull is once again still 0, so the Pack of Vuniths takes 1 damage, but more importantly, once I get the damage tokens out, there we are, it takes 1 damage, but more importantly than that, it is evaded. Action 2 will take us over, once I put Stunning Blow in her discard pile, Action 2 will take us over to the map. Action 2, Jenny's going to try to leave the River Sky, but she's got to make a will or agility test. Either way, it's a 3, so she's up 1. I think she's just going to test will, because why not? Actually, no, I take that back. I forgot about Hierophant 5, so this would be Jenny's first will test, which means she gets a +1, so Jenny's actually up 2. Jenny's going to wave Toodaloo to the pack of Vunas. And then then she's going to wait for Luke. Action 3, she's going to take an opportunity to refill her hand, so Jenny will draw. You handle this one. 0 cost to play, lore agility on commit. Fast, play after you draw a non-peril encounter card, but before resolving that card's effects. Choose another investigator. That investigator is considered to have drawn that encounter card instead. Gain 1 resource. And then action 4, Jenny's going to spend 4 resources to play out her Mauser C96 that we saw earlier. I'll get the 5 ammo for that. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we are. Put those on the Mauser. And then that will do it for Jenny. Action 1 for Luke is going to leave us right here at the map. He's going to move down to Dilath Lane. And then we're going to look at the Veiled card on this. So we're going to look at the Veiled side of this. So we'll find... In the Endless Secrets, in the port city of Dilath Lane, you consult with the elders of the city. They believe that the truth of Kadath was hidden for a reason, and they call you a fool for searching for it. Even so, they tell you what little they know of the Forsaken Peak. Though you are far from finding Kadath, it is clear now that it cannot be in this region. We'll need to find a ship captain, Randolph muses. This journey will be much longer still. The Isle of Oriab lies to the south, and I have heard of a great mountain there. To the west lies the ancient land of Manar, where many secrets lie hidden. To the east is the timeless realm ruled by the wise king Karanas. North of there is a forbidden land where none dare tread. You have uncovered a sign of the gods. Place 1 resource on the scenario reference card to indicate this. For the remainder of the scenario, resources on the scenario reference card represent signs of the gods the investigators have uncovered. Your quest is to uncover as many of these signs as you can in order to discern the location of Kadath. Flip this card back over. I am not piling a mess of resources on the scenario reference card, so what I'm going to do instead is see if I have a spin down and ready. Perfect. I'm going to find a spin down, which is actually going to be a spin up counter that I'm going to use to count the signs of the gods. So I'm going to put that on 1 under the scenario reference card, because it'll be a lot easier to look at that at a glance than try to try to count the resources there. Then I think for actions 2 and 3, Luke's going to set up a little bit more and take 2 resources, since we really don't have much to do right now other than wait for the end of the round. That'll do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, actually at the end of the investigation phase, that comes back a side out of play, which I will put that... I'm just going to put that over here to the side for the time being. So that's it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, none of our enemies are hunters. They'll all wake up, as will we. Resetting all of our actions. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jenny will gain 2 resources and go to 3. Luke will gain 1 and go to 5. Jenny will draw. Arcane Studies. 2 costs to play, will, lore, and commit. Resource dumps for will and lore tests. Luke with Forced Learning will draw 2 cards and pick 1. He will draw. I've got a plan. 3 costs to play, lore, combat, and commit. Fight using lore, deal +1 damage for this attack for each clue you have to a max of +3 damage. Or Voice of Ra, 0 cost to play, lore on commit. Gain a resource, then reveal 3 random tokens from the bag. For each bad symbol revealed, gain an additional 2. We're going to keep Voice of Ra. Then at end of round, Dreamland's Eclipse goes away, and Jenny and Luke will spend their 4 clues to advance the act. So let's take a look at what's on the back of the act. To the sea. You find a captain willing to grant you passage to the remote regions of the Dreamlands, wherein you may find signs from the gods to point you in the direction of Kadath. Search the encounter deck, discard pile, and all play areas for Cats of Ulthar, each pack of Vuniths, and each card from the Zoog's encounter set and remove them from the game. Shuffle each set-aside copy of Priests of 1,000 Masks into the encounter deck along with the discard pile. The investigators must decide, choose one. Visit the Isle of Oriab to the south. Resolve Oriab setup in the campaign guide. Visit the ancient land of Manar to the west. Resolve Manar setup in the campaign guide. Visit the Forbidden Lands to the north. Resolve Forbidden Lands setup in the campaign guide. Visit the Kingdom of the Timeless Realm to the east. Resolve Timeless Realm setup in the campaign guide. Let's actually start with the Timeless Realm. So I'm going to shut the camera off, do all of that, and when we come back, we'll be back here to continue the end of round. Before we continue into the Mythos phase, I almost forgot about Virgil Grey. So since we didn't uncover a sign of the gods at Dilathleen, Jenny gets to draw a card, gain a resource, or heal a horror from Virgil. Virgil doesn't have a horror on him, so that doesn't do anything for us. Looking at Jenny's hand, I think I'm going to... Do I draw a card or take a resource? Luke's going to end up with him either way. I almost forgot to get the clues out. Let me do that while I get the clues out for the locations while I have a think about that. I think we're going to have Jenny... I think we're going to have Jenny draw a card, so Jenny will draw. Another intel report. Okay, that could actually be very helpful for us. Yeah, but that could potentially be huge. Let's see, right, we should be at, okay. So we should be at the King's Decree. Right here. Alright. Act 2A, The King's Decree. Much of the valley realm of Uth-Nargai, ruled by the dreamer Karanis, eludes the grasp of time. Nothing here ages or falls into disrepair. It is a realm of wonders and marvels. How many years might pass here before you even noticed? Objective. Find and uncover as many signs of the gods in this region as you can. At the end of the round, if each investigator is at the same port location, you may move to another region by advancing this act. Objective. If the investigators have uncovered 10 signs of the gods, proceed to R1. Okay, so that's all set up. We'll take a look at the map before we go into the next investigation phase. But before we get there, we need to go into the Mythos phase. Doom on the agenda goes up to 4. Jenny will draw. Night Riders, oh boy, 225, Swarming 1. While the host Night Riders has no attached swarm cards, it gets -3 evade. Forced, after you evade Night Riders, discarded. Oh, fantastic. So it's got no attached swarm cards, it gets -3 evade. That's going to be fun. Luke draws. Priest of 1,000 Masks. We were going to take a look at the one on Hazeth Clegg anyway, but we can take a look at this one. 2 O's across the board. While the investigators have uncovered 2 or more signs of the gods, Priest of 1,000 Masks gets +1 fight and evade. 4 or more signs of the gods, Priest of 1,000 Masks gets +2 health. 6 or more signs of the gods. Priest of 1,000 Masks gets +1 damage and gains Retaliate. Does a horror on attack. Since we've only uncovered one sign of the gods right now, it's just a vanilla 2/2/2, so it's not that dangerous. Before we move into the investigation phase, though, let's move over to the map to take a look at our new battery of locations. Alright, so the investigators are starting off at Celiphaeus. Shroud of 2 clues, Veiled. Carter knew that they were come to the land of Uth-Nargai and the marvelous city of Celiphaeus. Swiftly there came into sight the glittering minarets of that fabulous town, and the untarnished marble walls with their bronze statues, and the great stone bridge where Naraxa joins the sea. H.P. Lovecraft, The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, Victory 1. Okay, that's interesting. Now we're into the investigation phase, and Jenny's got to deal with these Night Riders, so let's drop down to her play area to deal with that. For Action 1, Jenny's going to chamber around in the Mauser to try to deal with these Night Riders. At least the Swarm card. So Jenny is up 2, and that's where she'll test. Actually, yeah, Jenny gets +1 combat and deals +1 damage, so she's up 2. Is there anything I want to commit to this? Actually, there's nothing I can commit. So Jenny's up 2. Oh, and Virgil Gray goes over to Luke. A 0 will take out the Swarm card on the Night Riders, which will now bring it down to a 2 evade. Which is what Jenny is going to try, because if she evades Night Riders, she gets rid of it. Actually, that was a 0 that we pulled. So Jenny can either... That was a 0 Jenny pulled, so since we were up 2, Jenny can either gain a resource or ready the Mauser. I think she's actually going to take the resource. Yeah, she's going to take the resource. I'm kind of setting myself up a little bit for next round, but I'm also getting ahead of myself. Well, maybe I'm not getting ahead of myself too much. Anyway, Action 2, Jenny is going to try to evade the Night Riders. She's up 1. Skull is -1. Is actually a -1 now because we have uncovered a sign of the gods. That's still enough to evade the Night Riders, which is also known as discarding the Night Riders. Okay, Action 3. I think she's going to investigate up 1 because why not? That's a 0, which means Jenny gets a clue. Action 4, she'll run it back up 1. Cultist is reveal another token. We saw this earlier. This is an investigation, so we have to be careful about increasing the shroud. Which another 0 gives us the last clue off of Celiphaeus. It'll also let us flip it over. So Jenny will go ahead and flip it over and we'll find Advice of the King. Randolph stops in one of the streets of Celiphaeus to meet with the old chief of the city's cats, and you recall that your companion once told you that Ulthar is not the only city in the Dreamlands in which these curious creatures dwell. The cat informs Randolph where he can find, quote, his old friend, and you are surprised when your companion leads you to a rose crystal palace in the center of the city. Here, you meet with King Kadath, who rules this region. When you tell Kadath of your quest, he indicates that you may find what you are looking for in the great temple that lies in the center of Kadath Clegg, a city beyond his timeless realm. But his advice comes with a warning. Once you enter the Temple of Unattainable Desires, you might never leave. Remember that you have beseeched the king. Shuffle one set-aside copy of Tenebrous Nightgaunt into the encounter deck, if able. Flip this card back over. Didn't we already shuffle the... No, we didn't shuffle any of the Tenebrous Nightgaunts into the discard pile. So we can shuffle that in. Okay. We hopefully won't need to take a look at Tenebrous Nightgaunt. Alright, I will make a quick note of having beseeched the king. Okay, that will do it for Jenny. Luke's turn will take us over to his play area. Luke's first order of business is going to be to pop a charge of shriveling at this Priest of 1,000 Masks. Since it is his first will test of the round, he gets +1 will, so he's at a 5-2. Luke is up 3. A 0 means the first Priest of the 1,000 Masks goes toodaloo. Then action 2 will take us over to the map. Action 2, Luke's going to move down to Kadath Clegg, which will make friends with the Priest of 1,000 Masks. We'll take a look at Kadath Clegg. Shroud of 4, 2 clues, Veiled. In stark contrast to the rest of the Timeless Realms, Kadath Clegg is a decaying city of dingy, twisting streets and basalt towers that lies outside the reach of the King of Celiphaeus. Even simple rules of architecture do not seem to apply here, and though there are gods venerated within the city's many temples, none of them are the reputable sort that you seek. Action 3, we're going to try to take out this Priest of 1,000 Masks with another charge of shriveling, mainly while the coast is clear. This time Luke's only up 2. Rune is, as we saw, -2. If you fail, either take a damage and a horror or place a doom on the current agenda. Luke will have to take a horror from shriveling, but -2 is still even, so he still passes the test, which means the Priest of 1,000 Masks has been defeated. That's all 3 of Luke's actions. That'll do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, we took care of all of the enemies that are currently in play, so we can wake everything up. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Both of our investigators are going to end up at 6 resources. Jenny by gaining 2, Luke by gaining 1. Jenny will draw. You owe me 1. 0 cost to play. Lore, combat, agility on commit. Look at another investigator's hand. You may play a non-weakness card in that investigator's hand under your control. If you do, you and that investigator each draw 1 card. Luke will, of course, draw 2 cards and choose 1. So Luke will draw Panic, which is going to have to go into play. Put it into play in your threat area. Panic can be healed on as if it were a single point of horror on you. If it's healed, discard it. Forced. After you take a play, engage, or resource action, you can't take any of those types of actions for the remainder of the turn. This card's going to the discard pile. Hopefully it's not something too good. Occult Lexicon, 2 cost to play, limit 1 per deck. Forced, after it enters play, search your bonded cards for 3 copies, yada yada yada. It's not going to matter because Luke will have to discard it. That's unfortunate. Mythos phase, Doom on the agenda goes up to 5. Jenny draws. Whispers of Hypnos. We saw this earlier. I think right now... So this is our 4 action. This is round 4. Remember, we had to put an extra Doom up earlier. So round 4, Whispers of Hypnos. This time, do I go on the assumption that we're not going to have to test agility? On a stat we're not going to have to test? I don't want to impair Will or Lore, because Luke's going to need those at Hazeth Clegg. I think we're going to take a chance and impair Agility. We'll gamble on Agility. Then Luke will draw. Corsair of Leng. Uh-oh. Spawn nearest city or surface location, which actually can go right on top of Luke. Spawn, yep. Alert. Forced. After Corsair of Leng attacks via its alert keyword, it gets -3 evade for the remainder of the phase. Fortunately, Luke's actually got his go away button, which he might be pushing here pretty soon. Fortunately, it's not an alert, so... Well, it is an alert, but it's not a hunter is the keyword that I wanted to avoid there. The question is, do we have him push the go away button? After he attacks via alert. I wanted to send Jenny into Serrani in this round to get those... Well, she can get the clues without having to go in there. But... That kind of changes things a little bit for me. The Corsair of Leng does a damage. I could send Jenny in there to try to kill it and have them basically swap what I was going to have them do this round. Plus, that is a Shroud of 4 that we need to try to get clues from, and Luke's only got 1 charge of Shriveling left. You use your will in place of your combat or agility. That would make him a 5, even to try to evade. That might be worth it, actually. Oh, that's a play action, too, so we wouldn't be able to read any signs. Yeah, we can probably deal with that. I just don't want to be trying to evade using agility. That's the only thing. Actually, yeah, a 5 would get him to even because of the Hierophant 5. So I think we're going to try that. He's always got the gate box. He's always got his nope out button that we can push if we need to. So let's go into the investigation phase, and we're going to start in Luke's play area. Here's where we see if my plan works. Action 1, Luke's going to spend 2 resources to play out his Sword Cane, which means now we can't take any play, engage, or resource actions, but we do get to trigger the action ability without paying its cost, so we don't have to exhaust it. We're going to try to evade the Corsair of Leng using Will instead. So we're up to... So that gets +1 because of the Hierophant 5, which brings Luke to even. Does he have any will? He doesn't have any will that he wants to commit, so we are at even. -2 says no, which means Luke will have to take a damage, But at least now it's down to a -3. So for action 2, Luke is now going to use the Sword Cane's action ability. He is going to have to exhaust it. He'll try again, but he'll use Will this time. He's up 2. He's up 2 now, trying to evade. He may have to nope out, which was not the original plan. Tentacle touched. Okay, now we got to push the nope. Now we got to push the nope button. So we're going to send it. So we're going to send Luke over to Dreamgate Wondrous Journey, and then action 3 will take us over to the map. Action 3, Luke's going to move to the Dreamgate. Do I want to go ahead with that switch plan? I think I do actually want to go ahead with that plan. So Luke is going to end up at... I think we're going to have Luke end up at... Does he have a card he can dump? He does. So I think he's going to discard Rite of Seeking to end up at Saranian. So we'll take our first look at Saranian. Shroud of 3, 2 clues. Veiled. As an additional cost for you to enter or leave Saranian, you must choose and discard a card from your hand. The marble cloud city of Saranian, that lies in ethereal space beyond where the sea meets the sky. H.P. Lovecraft, The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, Victory 1. Alright, unfortunately Luke can't do anything with that because he's out of actions. Jenny's turn. We're actually going to stay right here at the map. She's going to start off by cleaning herself out of resources for her second intel report, which will let her discover both 2 clues and at a location up to 2 connections away. So she'll grab the clues off of Hazeth Clegg. Then action 2, Jenny's going to go into Hazeth Clegg, which will make friends with the Corsair of Leng, but it will also let us flip over the Veiled Hazeth Clegg. So let's take a look here. Unattainable Desires. Deep within the rundown city of Hazeth Clegg, along the Street of the Pantheon, lies the Temple of Unattainable Desires. It is a grand temple of onyx, its iron gate fashioned to look like a mass of twisted and intermingled serpents with amethyst eyes. Lanterns cast a baleful red glow at the entrance. You shudder at the thought of what profane rituals might transpire within its unhallowed halls, and yet your gut tells you that this awful place may hold the answers you seek. Put the set-aside Temple of Unattainable Desires into play. Flip this card back over. Alright, so we'll get the Temple of Unattainable Desires out. Here we are. We'll grab another connection arrow. And this one we're going to take a look at before we move to it because there's actually text that's relevant. Shroud of 3, 2 clues. Veiled. The way into the temple is barred shut. You can't enter the Temple of Unattainable Desires unless an investigator has beseeched the king, and Jenny did earlier. The interior of the temple is even darker and more twisted than the city in which it dwells. Hooded lanterns bathe its halls in dim crimson light, and no friendly faces greet you within. Victory 1. We'll get the 2 clues out for that. In more important business, though, Jenny's going to chamber another round of the Mauser to try to deal with this Corsair of Leng. Jenny, of course, is up 2, and is she going to commit anything to this test? She is not. So Jenny's up 2. Actually, do I want to try to kill this Corsair now? I'd have to commit You Owe Me 1 to go up 3, which might still be worthwhile. I primarily want to be able to ready the Mauser if I can, so yeah, I think we're going to commit You Owe Me 1 for the combat, so Jenny will be up 3. -2 puts 2 damage on the Corsair of Leng, but unfortunately it will not let us ready the Mauser. Let's see, then for action 4, might as well try to punch it again up 1. It won't attack with it won't retaliate, but it would if we tried to evade it. So we're up 1 trying to attack again. Skull is now -1. So we do put another damage on the Corsair of Leng because we've only uncovered 1 sign of the gods. So we'll get a 3 damage for that. Unfortunately, Jenny is out of actions now. So that will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, Jenny takes a damage from the Corsair of Leng, which is unfortunate, but no help for that. That's the only enemy in play. Dreamgate goes back aside. We'll flip everything over here. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jenny will gain 2 resources. Luke will gain 1 and go to 5. Jenny will draw. Investments, 1 cost to play, lore on commit. Uses 0 supplies, limit 10 on investments. Free action, exhausts investments to place 1 supply on it. Action, exhaust and discard investments to move all supplies from it to your resource pool as resources. Luke will draw 2 and discard 1. First up, he'll find Drawn to the Flame, 0 cost to play, lore on commit. Draw the top card of the encounter deck, then discover 2 clues at your location. His other choice, Spectral Razor. Oh, this is a tough one. Fight plus will to your skill value for this attack. Immediately before this attack, you may engage the attacked enemy. This attack deals +1 damage, +2 instead if the enemy is non-elite. Ooh. We could use that to potentially help Jenny out with the Corsair of Leng, but she seems to be fine so far. I think he's going to keep this... Do I keep more clues or do I keep more combat? If that was a shriveling, this choice I think would be harder, but I think he's going to keep... Drawn to the Flame. This is a very tough decision. End of round, Whispers of Hypnos goes away. Before we go into the Mythos phase, I need to change my battery. Now we're ready for the Mythos phase. Doom on the agenda goes up to 6. Jenny will draw. Law of Agaroth, Chaos. Peril Hidden. Secretly add this card to your hand. You can't play cards or trigger abilities on player cards with an odd printed resource cost. As an action, discard a player card with an even printed resource cost from your hand. Discard this card from your hand. The Mauser's an even cost, so we can still trigger that. Luke will draw. Hunted by Corsairs. Attach Hunted by Corsairs to the current act. When the act advances, each investigator takes 2 damage. Attached act gains action test lore 4 to outwit the Corsairs or agility 4 to sneak past them. If you succeed, discard Hunted by Corsairs. We need to get rid of that before we advance the act. Fortunately, we're not ready to do that yet because we've got more pressing problems on our hands, but it is something we need to keep an eye on. Anyway, moving into the investigation phase, let's see if Jenny can finish dealing with this Corsair of Leng as we drop down to her play area. Action 1, we'll see if we can punch the Corsair of Leng. That's been working for us so far. We're up 1. -2 fails. Action 2, now we're going to use an ammo from the Mauser. I was hoping to be able to save the ammo. But that'll put Jenny up 2. -1 says Toodaloo, Mr. Corsair of Lang. But we don't get the bonuses on the Mauser. Action 3 will take us over to the map. Action 3, Jenny will move over to the Temple of Unattainable Desires. Action 4, she'll investigate it even, because why not? We're going to commit investments to go up 1 since we can't play it anyway because of the law, because of the chaos law in our hand. So Jenny's up 1. +1 gets us a clue off the temple. So that'll do it for Jenny. Luke is going to... What is he going to do? I think he's going to spend 4 resources to play out Milan. You get +1 lore if you successfully investigate, gain 1 resource. While I truly pray that this nightmare is but a singular abomination, I must admit that I am exhilarated by the possibility that this is but one specimen of a new genus. 1 and 2 on soak. So we can't take any more play actions. Action 2, he'll investigate up 1. What did I do with the bag? It's back here. +1 gets him a clue and a resource. Action 3, he'll run the resource back. He'll run the investigation back, I should say. He's still up 1. A 0 gets him the last clue off the location, which will bring him up to 3 resources, and we'll flip it over as a fast action right now. Timeless Beauty. The beautiful city of Seranian is a refuge from all the world's ills. In these turreted cloud castles that hang in a heavenly sky, time slows to a halt. The allure of this city is ageless. You could lose yourself for years within its marbled streets and perfect gardens and never notice the difference. It is so peaceful that you nearly forget your quest, as well as the fact that your physical body still sleeps in the real world. Even so, you cannot help but wonder, would it be better to simply stay in this tranquil realm and let your mind remain at peace, even while your body ages and withers away? Each investigator at Seranian heals 2 damage and gains 2 resources. Jenny really could have used that. You have uncovered a sign of the gods. Place 1 resource on the scenario reference card and flip this back over. So we'll increase our spin up to 2. Luke will heal his 2 damage. And he gained 2 resources? Yes. So Luke will actually go up to 5 resources. And I don't think I need to push the F off button just yet, so we'll sit tight on that. Anyway, that will do it for Luke. That'll do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, Jenny managed to kill our only enemy in play, and she's 1 clue away from being done here. So we'll flip everything over there. And then we'll move back up top once I unexhaust these. We'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Before we move into the upkeep phase, I'm once more sucktacular about remembering Virgil Gray. So Luke now gets to draw a card, gain a resource, or heal a horror from Virgil. He's going to draw a card, so Luke will draw. Deduction, level 2. This could be very useful later on in the scenario. 2 lore on commit. If you're successful while investigating a location, discover 1 additional clue at that location, 2 additional clues instead if you succeed by 2 or more. And then that will move Virgil back over to Jenny. Now we're into the upkeep phase. Jenny gains 2 resources and goes to 4. Luke gains 1 and goes to 6. Jenny will draw. Dark Pact. Oh, great. 2 cost to play. Deal 2 damage to an investigator at your location. Forced. When the game ends or you're eliminated, if Dark Pact is still in your hand, Remove it from your deck. Search the collection for the price of failure and add it to your deck. Oh, that's delightful. Then Forced Learning, Luke will draw 2 cards. Luke will draw first up. Robes of Endless Night, 3 cost to play. Agility on commit. Reaction, when you play a spell card, exhaust Robes of Endless Night, reduce the cost of that card by 1. Or another Drawn to the Flame. I think we're going to keep Drawn to the Flame here again. Mythos phase, the agenda is advancing. Let's take a look here. Come on. Wait. Should the Corsairs of Leng have been in the deck yet? Something shuffled them in. I don't remember what. No, maybe they... I don't think they did shuffle in. For some reason, I thought something had shuffled them in. No, they shouldn't have been in the deck yet. No, I'm getting ahead of myself here. The Corsair's Pursuit. Months have passed since you first set forth from Ulthar. Along the way, you have seen many fabulous places and met many strange and interesting people. Some have been helpful, giving you sage advice or pointing you in the right direction. Most, however, have regarded you with suspicion and wariness. Perhaps it is because you are a dreamer from the outside world. Or perhaps it is because you are foolish and accursed enough to seek the forbidden places of the Dreamlands. But it is the Corsairs which truly frighten you. Throughout your travels, you spot them pursuing you time and time again. Men of Leng, the inhabitants of the Dreamlands call them. Satyr-like creatures with hooves instead of feet and great cursed horns protruding from their foreheads. They sail on long, black galleys with black sails. You know not why they hunt for you relentlessly, and you are not keen to find out. Shuffle both set-aside Corsair of Leng enemies into the encounter deck along with the discard pile. I thought something else had shuffled them in earlier in the scenario. Tenebrous Night Gaunt. No. Yeah, I don't know what happened, but apparently the Corsairs of Leng weren't supposed to be in the deck yet. I might have just forgotten to put them aside when I set the scenario up last night, but I'm not going to go all the way back and retcon this. Whoops. Well, like I said, it's a little late to worry about that now. Anyway, Agenda 2A. Agents of the Outer Gods. Perhaps seeking Kadath is an accursed venture after all. Even so, curiosity gnaws at your mind. What proof could the resting gods of the place hold for you? We still have our option if we're at a port location. Jenny will draw. Dreamlands Eclipse. We saw this earlier. Oh, yikes. That's actually a problem for us. Luke will draw. Song of the Maga Bird. Revelation. Attach to your location. After you move out of attached location, take one horror, place one doom on the current agenda, and discard Song of the Maga Bird. This effect can cause the current agenda to advance, so it's got the Ancient Evils text too. Wunderbar. As an action, test Will 4 to resist the call, or Combat 4 to drive away the birds. If you succeed, discard Song of the Maga Bird. That's actually not that catastrophic, I don't think, but getting a little bit ahead of myself there. Investigation phase now, and Jenny's turn is going to take us over to her play area. Action 1, Jenny's going to start with an investigation. She's going to take a horror from that, so I don't have to increase the shroud, which leaves her at even. Is there any lore she can commit in her hand? There is not. So she's going to just investigate it even. Basically, actually, I could use Money Talks to put her up 1, but I'm not sure how much I like that idea. Actually, I could commit Arcane Studies to put her up 1. Which I think I'll do that instead. I'll do that first instead. So we'll commit Arcane Studies to go up 1. -2 says no. Action 2, we'll try it again. She's going to have to take another horror. And this time I'm going to use... Actually, we're going to test at even. Cultist is a problem. We have to reveal another token. We'd be increasing the shroud by 1 anyway if we fail. Which we do not with a +1. That gives Jenny the last clue and lets us flip over the Temple of Unattainable Desires. So we find the city inside. In the deepest section of the temple lies its greatest hall and its greatest curse. The moment you pass under its low, narrow doorway, you find yourself in another realm altogether, a twisted, hellish version of the city outside. The streets are lined with tottering houses that lean together so that they almost form tunnels, blotting out what passes for the sky in this nightmare realm. Only a single baleful star shines in the perpetual twilight, visible between the leaning basalt towers and twisted streets. Put the set-aside city which appears on no map location into play and flip it back over. Okay, oh, right. Let's see, so we need to put the... Let's see, here we are. City which... Holy criminy. Oh, actually, this might not be too bad. City which appears on no map. Shroud of 6 to 4 clues. Veiled. For each priest of 1,000 masks at the city which appears on no map, reduce its shroud by 1. Forced. After you fail a skill test while investigating the city which appears on no map, search the encounter deck and discard pile for a priest of 1,000 masks and spawn it here. Shuffle the encounter deck. Victory 2. Okay, Jenny. Okay, I've got a little bit of a plan here that might let me get the clues off of that location. Let's see, so that was investigate and investigate. We got to get the 4 clues for that. Let's see here, Jenny. Okay, that might work. So Jenny's got 2 actions left. Action 3, I think, will take us over to the map. Action 3, Jenny's going to move up to the city which appears on no map. I need somebody there that can flip the location over, assuming Luke's part of the plan works. And Action 4... Action 4, I think Jenny's just going to take a resource. That'll do it for Jenny. Before we start Luke's turn, he's going to push his Nope button, which is going to trigger a few things on here. So he's got to choose and discard a card from his hand, which he's actually going to discard one of these Drawn to the Flames. So he is going to leave to go to the Dreamgate Wondrous Journey, which will trigger... So he discarded a Drawn to the Flame to do that. Song of the Maga Bird will make him take a horror, so that'll bring him up to 3. Place a Doom on the agenda, and discard Song of the Maga Bird. Fortunately, we're only putting our first Doom up there, so that's not going to cause it to advance. Action 1, Luke's going to trigger his special ability for the very first time this campaign. He's going to play an event as if he was at a connecting location. The engaged with each enemy at the location isn't relevant. So he's going to spend 2 resources to play Read the Signs. Investigate plus will to your skill value for this investigation. And you ignore any effect or keyword on your location which would trigger during the investigation. If you succeed, discover 1 additional clue at this location. A grisly future is laid before you. Do you turn away or do you embrace it? So that's going to bring Luke up to an 8 because of Milan. He's going to commit deduction to go up to 10. And Jenny was going to give him something, I thought. Yes, she's going to give him You Handle This One. Luke is investigating the city which appears on no map. Because if you remember Dreamgate Wondrous Journey, that's considered to be connected to every revealed location, and each location in this scenario is revealed. So anyway, Luke is at an 11 to a 6. He's up 5, and he discovers all 4 clues on city which appears on no map if he succeeds. So, up 5. Cultist, not good. Oh, he's also got to take a horror, which he took the horror for the Song of Maga Bird. He didn't take the horror for Dreamland's Eclipse. So Cultist. Skull is currently -2. Which is not enough to cause us to fail. So, Luke will gain all 4 clues off the location because we were discovering 1 additional clue for Read the Signs, plus 2 more for the upgraded deduction. So that plan worked out perfectly, which means Jenny also gets to, as a fast action, flip over city which appears on no map. That's why I needed her there. Okay. The Baleful Star. You traverse the tangled streets of this dark, abandoned realm for what seems like many hours. You cannot tell the passage of time, for the star that hangs above you never moves, and the rest of the sky is empty and devoid of all light. Finally, you reach the square in the center of town, directly below the Baleful Star. Its red glare shines down on a statue depicting an otherworldly abomination. The inscription in the stone before the statue is riddled with astrological symbols and strange names, but nothing more. The moment you read one of the names, the city begins to collapse, and you are whisked away by an incomprehensible force. You awaken several hours later, your head spinning. Your arms and legs are covered in thin, bloody incisions. You have uncovered 2 signs of the Elder Gods, or 2 signs of the Gods. Place 2 resources on the scenario reference card. Discard each enemy here. Move each investigator here to the Temple of Unattainable Desires, which can't be cancelled. Flip this card back over and add it to the victory display. So Jenny moves down to the Temple of Unattainable Desires. City which appears on no map goes straight to the victory display. And Luke gets a resource. That almost feels like an afterthought in how massive that turn was for us. Let's see. Then for action 2, Luke's going to move down to Celiphaeus. Actually, he can test there because Hunted by Corsairs is attached to the act. And I think that's where he's going to test. He's going to test the Hunted by Corsairs because we're going to be getting ready to advance that pretty soon. So we're going to test at even. +1 means we get rid of Hunted by Corsairs. And then action 3, I was going to move Luke down to Celiphaeus, but he's going to get moved on the investigation at the end of the investigation phase anyway, which we're coming up on momentarily. I forgot to flip over Jenny's last action because I needed her to move up to... So we can't take a play action. I think Luke will just draw a card for action 3. So Luke will draw. Hawkeye folding camera. 2 cost to play, will on commit. Reaction: after the last clue is discovered from your location, place a resource from the token pool on this card as evidence. While Hawkeye folding camera has 1 or more evidence, you get +1 will. 2 or more +1 lore. 3 or more evidence +1 sanity. That probably would have been discarded if we found that with forced learning. Anyway, that's it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, we currently have... Oh, actually at the end of the investigation phase, right. So now Luke will move to Celiphaeus, which means Dreamgate gets put aside out of play. So now we're into the enemy phase. No enemies in play. We'll flip everything over here. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jenny gains 2 resources and goes to 7. Luke gains 1 and goes to 6. Jenny will draw. Searching for Izzy. Oh, delightful. So, Revelation, we attach... Actually, hang on. Jenny would have drawn that. Actually, what would Jenny have done when we uncovered Signs of the Gods? Because I'm terrible at remembering Virgil. He didn't have a horror on him. We're going to pretend we drew this. Okay. So attach searching for Izzy to the location furthest away from you. 2 actions to investigate. If you succeed, instead of discovering clues, discard searching for Izzy. Forced. When the game ends, if searching for Izzy is in play, Jenny suffers 1 mental trauma. On our way, we're going to take Virgil over to Luke, and we're going to attach searching for Izzy to Seranian, which I don't completely care about that right now, because when we advance the act... Actually, we might advance the act, even if we're going to end up resigning soon. So now in the upkeep phase, Jenny will draw. Another stunning blow, which we saw earlier. Luke will draw. Another shriveling, which could come in very handy for us. Dreamland's Eclipse goes away. Mythos phase, second doom on the agenda. Jenny draws. Another Song of the Maga Bird. Oh, great. And we are going to have to leave the location and get moving. Luke draws. Prismatic Phenomenon. Put it into your threat area. The first time you perform one of the following actions, draw, resource, or play, it costs 1 additional action. Forced. After you successfully investigate a location, instead of discovering clues, discard Prismatic Phenomenon. I also need to remember to put the 2 more Signs of the Gods up here. Alright, that wasn't too catastrophic in terms of what I want to do. So, let's move into the investigation phase. Jenny's turn will take us over to the map. Jenny, for action 1, is going to leave the Temple of Unattainable Desires, which will cause her to take a horror, place a doom on the agenda, which will bring us up to 3, and discard Song of the Maga Bird. Fortunately, the 3rd doom doesn't cause us to advance the agenda. Action 2, she's going to move up to Celiphaeus. Action 3, she's going to discard... Do I even care about this? Because I don't have anything odd in my hand. She's actually going to pay 2 resources to play out Dark Pact to deal 2 damage to an investigator at her location. As much as I don't like putting Luke down health, I'm going to deal him the 2 damage because I don't want the price of failure in my deck. So there's 2 actions to move. Action 3 to play Dark Pact. Action 4, Jenny is going to... The update Luke is not a trigger, fortunately. That's just a passive thing that she always has. Action 4, Jenny's going to draw a card, so she will draw. You owe me one, which we saw earlier. She might actually use that next round, potentially. That'll do it for Jenny. Luke. What on earth? Huh. Alright, anyway. Luke is going to start off for action 1 by spending... Oh, it's got to be... Not only as a play, I can't take anything else, but it costs me an extra action. Which I don't think I care about, actually. I think for action 2, for 2 actions, Luke's going to spend 3 resources to play out another copy of Shriveling, mostly so I have an extra one ready to go, and that takes 4 charges. And then action 3, Luke is going to investigate, so he's up 2. I do want to try to get rid of Prismatic Phenomenon, because I'd rather it not cost me 2 actions to play anything. That's a Shroud of 2. Yep, he's up 4. Skull is -4, so we fail that. Because we discovered 4 signs of the gods. That'll do it for Luke, that'll do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, no enemies in play, so we'll reset everything. And then we'll move, actually let's flip those 2 over as well. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jenny gains 2 resources and goes to 7. Luke gains 1 and goes to 4. Jenny will draw. Lone Wolf. 1 cost to play, agility on commit. Limit 1 per investigator. Reaction when your turn begins, if there are no other investigators at your location, gain a resource. Luke will draw from Forced Learning. 2 cards. First up, he'll find... Another Read the Signs, this one level 2. This could be very helpful. And Azure Flame uses 4 charges. Action, spend a charge to fight using Will instead of combat and deal +1 damage. But if you pull a good symbol, take a damage. Which one do I want here? Luke's at a base of 4, investigating. He's got a lot of ways to discover clues. It's using Will instead of combat and deal +1 damage. I think we're going to take Read. I think we're going to keep Read the Signs. So the upgrade here is if a symbol was revealed during this investigation, return Read the Signs to your hand at the end of your turn. Okay. All right. So we're at the end of the round now, which means we are going to go ahead and advance the act, since we're done up here. So let's see what we've got here. Where to? Your ship's crew grumbles in protest when you announce your intention to leave. Can you blame them? The captain leans in and says quietly as the crew prepares for the voyage. They would stay in port here forever if they could. But alas, the sea calls. So, where are we headed next? Search the encounter deck, discard pile, and all play areas for the crawling mist and remove it from the game. Shuffle the discard pile into the deck. The investigators must decide, choose one. You cannot choose a place you have already visited. If you have already visited each of the listed areas, proceed to R1. Visit the Isle of Oriab to the south. Resolve Oriab setup in the campaign guide. Visit the ancient land of Minar to the west. Resolve Minar setup in the campaign guide. Visit the Forbidden Lands to the north. Resolve Forbidden Lands setup in the campaign guide. I think we're going to visit the Isle of Oriab next. So once again, I'm going to shut the camera off so I can do Oriab setup. Alright, we're all set here, so we'll go into Act 2A. once it decides to focus. The Isle of Oriab. To the south lies the small but thriving volcanic island of Oriab, dominated by the dormant volcano called Negronic. The Bay of Baharna, marked by twin lighthouses, Thon and Tal, overlooks the southern sea. Objective, the same objectives we have over here. Alright, Mythos phase, now that we've got that sorted out. Doom on the agenda goes up to 4. Jenny draws. Corsair of Lang's back again, and we are at a city location, so it's very much engaged with Jenny. Luke draws. Night Riders again, swarming 1. Delightful. Okay, well, that kind of changes things a little bit. Alright, well... Now we're into the investigation phase, and I think we're going to move down to Jenny first, and we're going to move down to her play area. We actually might be able to take out this Corsair of Lang this turn. The only question is if I want to... Well, let's see. It's gonna... I think we can do it. So for action 1, Jenny's going to pop a shot off her Mauser. But as she's initiating a skill test, which technically a combat is a skill test, I believe that's how it works. At least that's how I'm going to play it for this. Since we are initiating a skill test, we get +1 combat and deal +1 damage. So we're at 4, but instead we're going to use Money Talks. So instead of the skill type indicated for this test, yada yada yada, this is a resource, actually this is a resource skill test. You have, actually that doesn't really change much of anything, so never mind that. So we're going to stick with a 4 to a 2. And I think we are going to commit Stunning Blow to make it a 5 to a 2, so we're up 3. If we succeed, we evade the court. Actually, better idea. We're going to aim at the Night Riders that are engaged to Luke. We'll come back and deal with the Corsair of Lang in a minute, hopefully. So that's a better plan. I think we're going to aim at the Night Riders instead, because if we evade them, we actually just discard the Night Riders. And we can probably take out the Corsair of Lang after that. So we are still up 3, though. Rune is -2. It's not enough to fail us, but it won't let us ready the Mauser. So that'll actually deal 2 damage to the Night Riders, which will take out a Swarm card, but because we evaded it, we also discard it. So that goes to the bottom of Luke's deck. Action 2, Jenny's going to punch the Corsair again. She's up 1. Is there anything I want to commit? There is not. So she's up 1. We may have to use Shriveling to try to deal with the... We have to use Shriveling to try to deal with the Corsair. Up 1 to punch it. +1 puts a damage on it. Action 2 will run the punch back. Still up 1. Rune is a fail, so either take 1 and 1 or place a damage on the current agenda. We're gonna be We're gonna be resigning soon, I think. So we'll put the Doom on the agenda, and then action 4 we'll run that back again. Still up 1. Skull is a -4, so yeah, no. That didn't really work out for us at all. That'll do it for Jenny. Now let's move over to Luke. Let's see. Engage is one of the actions that's covered by panic. And if I hit the Corsair, if I miss the Corsair of Leng with Luke's, if I attack it with Shriveling and miss, the Corsair of Leng will kill Jenny. So I think action 1, I have to engage the Corsair of Leng away from Jenny. Action 2, Luke's going to attack it with Shriveling. Because it's the first will test he's initiated, he's up. That brings him up to a 5, which puts him up 3. Is there anything he wants to commit? We'll commit the Hawkeye. Yeah, we'll commit the Hawkeye. No, we won't commit the Hawkeye folding camera. We'll need that probably for an eventual evasion test. So we're up 2. Luke, this is not the time to get tentacle touched. He takes a horror and fails the attack. So that was action 2. Action 3, we got to pop another charge of Shriveling. Let's try that again. We were up 3, so now we're only up 2. Do we pop another charge of Shriveling, or do we try to? We don't try to evade. -1 deals 2 damage to the Corsair. That will unfortunately do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, Luke will take a damage from the Corsair of Leng. Unfortunately, we do need to keep an eye on health and sanity because we're nearing the end of their reserves on that, and I wanted to try to get at least one or 2 more signs of the gods. So I've reset everything. Let's move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jenny gains 1 resource and goes to 8. Luke gains 1 and goes to 5. Jenny will draw. Narrow Escape. 0 cost to play, 2 agility on commit. Fast, play when an enemy makes an attack of opportunity against you. Cancel that attack. You get +2 skill value for the next skill test you perform. Luke has 2 cards from Forced Learning, so first up he'll find. Open Gate, Myriad Fast, play only during your turn. Attached to your location, group limit 3 in play. Investigators may move between any 2 locations with an attached open gate as if the locations were connected. Or Eureka. We want Eureka here. I'm not even going to pretend to hesitate at that. Mythos phase, 6th Doom on the agenda. Jenny will draw. Song of the Maga Bird again. Wonderful. We've seen that cause us a lot of problems. Luke will draw. Dreamlands Eclipse. This has caused us a lot of problems as well. Right now, the Corsair of Leng is causing us even more problems. Anyway, Mythos, that's the end of the Mythos phase. Investigation phase, Luke needs to take out this Corsair of Leng right now. So, let's move down to his play area. First action, first order of business for Luke is going to be to use a charge of shriveling against... do we use the charge of shriveling against the Corsair? Or do we use the sword cane and use will? I think we use the sword cane and use will. So that's going to bring him up to 5 to a 2, up 3, trying to take out the Corsair. Do we have any will we can commit to this? We do not, at least not for Jenny. Does Luke? Yeah, we're going to use the Hawkeye folding camera to go up 4. -1 takes out the Corsair of Leng. And then for actions 2 and 3, he's going to initiate a play action. Yep, he's got the... Okay, so he's got the resources for that. He's going to play an event as if he was at the Nameless Ruins to play Drawn to the Flame. So he's going to draw the top 2 cards of the encounter deck, then discover 2 clues at the location. We live on a placid island of ignorance in the midst of black seas of infinity, and it was not meant that we should voyage far. H.P. Lovecraft, The Call of Cthulhu. Let's see what Luke draws here for the top of the encounter deck. He will find Priest of 1,000 Masks, which goes there, and we've discovered 4 signs of the gods. Priest of 1,000 Masks gets +2 health. So that will go there, but Luke gets the 2 clues off of there, which could be a bit of a problem for us, because now Jenny would have to go get them. That's not the card I wanted to flip over. That wasn't remember, that was not initiating an investigation, so Dreamland's Eclipse didn't trigger. Anyway, that's it for Luke. Jenny's turn. Jenny's turn will take us over to the map. Jenny is going to leave, for action 1, Jenny is going to leave Baharna, which will trigger the Song of the Magabird. So she'll take a horror, which will bring her up to 5. Place a Doom on the agenda, which will bring that up to 7, so it won't advance this round. And discard Song of the Magabird. I mostly want to be able to flip over Nameless Ruins. Unfortunately, that will make friends with the Priest of 1,000 Masks, but we get to flip over Nameless Ruins. What remains of Tyria? The ruins of this settlement are vast, but it is the caverns that lie beneath that draw your interest. Deep underground, you become lost in a forbidden maze of wildly complex corridors, impossible to map. For days you scour the maze, unable to find the path to its core. Finally, you notice a dark shape, like a hazy shadow watching you from around a corner. You pursue it until it leads you to a tomb in the center of the gargantuan cavern, surrounded by ancient tapestries depicting the once great kingdom of Tyria. You wonder about the intentions of the shadow that led you here. Was it aiding you or manipulating you? You record the story of Tyria's fall before fleeing to the surface. You have no wish to stay any longer. You have uncovered a sign of the gods. Place 1 resource on the scenario reference card, then flip this back over. So that brings us up to 5 signs of the gods. Alright, Drawn to the Flame is discarded. Action 2, Jenny will then try to evade the Priest of 1,000 Masks. And she will be up... She'll be up 1, unless I want to... Actually, I'm going to commit Lone Wolf, since I can't play it anyway. And the law says exactly Bugkiss about committing cards. Actually, I believe it was play, right? Yes, play cards or trigger abilities. So we're going to commit Lone Wolf for the agility icon to go up 2. -2 evades the Priest of 1,000 Masks. Action 3, Jenny will move back to Baharna. And action 4, she will... she can actually, she will initiate an investigation and take a horror, which she'll put on Leo. So she's up 1. And I think she'll commit You Owe Me 1 to go up 2. Because it's got a lore icon on there. Actually, Luke will also give her Eureka to put her up 3. Mostly so we can potentially get a search out of this. Which a -2 will give. So that'll give her a clue. That'll give Jenny a clue and a search because she was the investigator who performed the test. So we get to look at the top 3 of her deck. First up, Jenny will get to consider Quick Thinking, which is very tempting right now. Next up, Jenny's Twin 45 is also very tempting right now. And Money Talks. So I guess the question is, what do I think I'm doing? Because next round is going to be the last round of the game. So what do I think I'm doing? I can't play the Twin 45s and come down to Mount Negronic, especially if I think we're going to be flipping that over this next, especially if I think we're going to try to flip that next round. Which means I don't think I want that. I think I want Quick Thinking, honestly. I think that's the card I'm going to take here. The Twin 45s are tempting, but I don't think the scenario is going to last long enough for them to have a real impact. If they would have come out a lot earlier, I would have been much happier to see the Twin 45s then. I'm not as happy to see them now when I think we're in the tail end of the scenario. All right. That's it for Jenny. That's it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, nothing happening on the enemy phase. The Night Riders aren't hunters, and the Priest of 1,000 Masks is exhausted, so we'll wake everything up. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jenny gains 2 resources and goes to 10. Luke gains 1 and goes to 6. Let's remember to flip that over as well. Jenny draws. Watch this. Will, combat, agility on commit. Commit only to a skill test you're performing. As an additional cost to commit, watch this to a skill test. Spend up to 3 resources. If you succeed by 1 or more, gain twice that many resources. Luke will draw 2 from Forced Learning. He will draw Deduction level 2, which we saw earlier, and Open Gate. We're going to discard the Open Gate. That's not even a question. Dreamland's Eclipse goes away at the end of the round. Mythos phase, Doom on the agenda goes up to 8. If this is a big problem, we are probably going to push the Nope Out button right now, right in the investigation phase. That happens at a port. Okay. Jenny will draw Wondrous Lands. If there are no clues, yada yada yada. If there are no clues, discard and gain search. Otherwise, attach Wondrous Lands to your location. Attached location gets -2 Shroud. Forced. After you successfully investigate attached location, take 1 horror, place 1 doom on the current agenda, and discard Wondrous Lands. This effect can cause the current agenda to advance. Oh, that's actually a big problem because if we take the last clue off of, actually after we successfully investigate, so if we would have had it drawn to the flame, we could have used that to grab the clues off, but I needed it for the bigger locations. Luke will draw another Wondrous Lands. So that gets attached. And there's no limit 1, so it's got technically a -2 Shroud now. So I think the question now is, after you enter Mount Negronic or discover one or more clues there, if the investigators have not obtained supplies from Baharna, you have to test Agility 3. That could be a problem. Maybe not. Unfortunately, that last doom is going to be the bigger problem on Baharna, which means we might have to risk it. That's an agility test. Does Luke have... Luke would be testing even, because the plan is to have him pull the last clue off that location. Actually, we may ignore any effect or keyword which would trigger... Oh, during the investigation. That's specifically worded as after. Yeah, that's worded as after. So... And I'm probably going to need read this, because I was going to use read the signs to try to get those clues off, and that's my only wild card. Well, that presents a problem. So, I think we're going to be over at the... I don't know what I'm going to do here, because I wanted to get the victory point off of Mount Negronic and then resign. But I wanted to get the last clue off of there and then resign. Well, actually get the last clue with Luke and then resign, then send Jenny down there to flip it. She can take the attack of opportunity from the Night Riders. She's got enough health left, because she'd have to take an attack of opportunity to move back to Baharna. But... I'm going to have to... Oh! Did we also discover a sign of the gods here? We did. Which, once again, I suck at. I suck at remembering Virgil, so Luke will pretend Luke took a resource from that and give Virgil back to Jenny. Alright, so I think for this plan to work, I need Luke to go first, and I need him to go... I need to move over to... We're actually going to move over to the map. For 2 actions, Luke's going to spend 2 resources and trigger his special ability to play Read the Signs as if he was at Mount Negronic investigating. So he's going to be at an 8 to a 3. He's up 5, trying to discover both clues. Actually, would he take the attack of opportunity now that I think about it if he's there? As if he's there and engaged with each enemy at that location. Actually, he could survive the horror from that, so... Yeah, I think with Luke's ability, if there's an enemy there and he's playing it as if he's engaged, I think he would take the attack of opportunity. And of course, there's no special explanation for Luke on that. Actually, I wonder if there's something in here. No. Because that would make a little too much sense. But yeah, my initial inclination, we'll say that in English, is that Luke would take the attack of opportunity if there's an enemy there. I'm going to have Jenny take the attack anyway, so Luke's going to take his as well. So he gets to trigger something that would... He gets to ignore something that would trigger during the investigation. Oh, shoot, that's an enter as well, so Jenny couldn't even... enter it most likely, but we'll try it anyway. So Luke is up 5 trying to discover those Actually, that's a question. Do I want to commit quick thinking here to get something of a tempo boost? Let's do that. Jenny's going to commit quick thinking as well to get up to a 9, so... To get Luke up to a 9, Luke is up 6. That's a 0, which gives Luke both clues off of the... Which gives Luke both clues off the location. So now we've got a lot to trigger here. So first we're going to trigger the... After it resolves. Okay, so we're going to trigger the forced on here first. Because Luke has got to test Combat 3 or Agility 3. Right now he's even. Jenny's going to give him Narrow Escape to put him up 2. And then Jenny will get to take an action after the test is over. So we have Narrow Escape for Luke's test to not lose his actions and immediately end his turn. Elder Sign is a +1. Actually, let's take a look at Luke's Elder Sign. This is the first time we've seen it, so that's going to be very handy. +1, place a charge on Gatebox. So Luke passes that, and he gets a charge on his Gatebox, which is probably not that great for us right now, but I think we can work with that. Jenny's quick thinking action. Is she going to move down to... Yes, she's going to move down to... She's going to move down to Mount Negronic. Luke still will have an action left, but we'll come back to that. She'll get engaged with the Night Riders. We'll take a look at Mount Negronic. This is why I was so hesitant around this. Veiled. Forced. After you enter Mount Negronic or discover one or more clues there, if the investigators have not obtained supplies from Baharna, test Combat 3 or Agility 3. If you fail, lose your remaining actions and immediately end your turn. Spoiler alert, discovering supplies is going to be on the back of here. So, with that in mind, Jenny's now got to test Combat 3 or Agility 3. Now's where she's going to use Money Talks. So now it's half of her resources rounded down, which is a 5, so she's base up 2. We could probably still flip it over as a fast action. Skull is -5, so Jenny actually loses all of her actions. Because that brings her down to a 0. That's a big problem, but we will get to flip over Mount Negronic as a fast action at least. The likeness of old. As you begin your perilous climb, you realize that you are the only ones who dare to scale the mountain. Although woodsmen and lava gatherers explore its lower slopes, few brave the cliffs higher up on the northern face, and certainly none along the southern face of the mountain, which cannot be seen from the city below. You eventually reach a valley of still lava, solid as rock. At the far end, a twisting, narrow path ascends the southern slope. When you reach the top, you find what you have been searching for. A face carved into the side of the mountains, hundreds of feet tall, the face of the great old ones, or so it is told. You have uncovered a sign of the gods. Place a resource on the scenario reference card. Shuffle a set-aside copy of Tenebrous Nightgaunt into the encounter deck if able. Flip it back over. So that'll bring us up to 6. Jenny will gain a resource and go to 11, because why not? Nothing else matters at this point. I'm not going to bother shuffling the... Oh, here it is. Here's the Tenebrous Nightgaunt. I actually am going to do this by the book. So we'll shuffle that into the encounter deck. But the scenario is ultimately going to be over at this point. Well, basically over at this point. Because Jenny now has no actions thanks to pulling that skull out. Alright, and then Luke is going to resign. So he's at a port location, which means he's going to resign. Jenny had no action, so that plan kind of blew up in my face. That'll do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, Jenny takes 2 horror. She'll take both of that. Actually, no, that would put her up to trauma. She'll actually put 2 on Virgil. Scenario is basically over at this point. So we'll flip her back over. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Jenny will gain 2 resources, go to 14. Actually, yeah, no, go to 13, and then she'll draw. Another Mauser C96, which is a little bit too late to the party, because in Mythos phase, we will advance the agenda. Captured. You have evaded the Corsairs for weeks since their pursuit began. Each time they appear, you are able to slip through